Warren, with Liam Williams and George North fit again, how much discussion went into those wing places?
Very little.
Because?
We felt that the starting 15 deserved another chance, and we were happy with Josh Adams' debut, and if we're going to find out about a player at the next level, we're going to find out about Josh this weekend. So that's why when we spoke about it, we thought he deserved another chance to play. Like I said, we're happy with that performance and giving him a chance, and we'll know more about him against the quality opposition on Saturday.
The media release mentions he suffered a slight strain. Are you reasonably confident that he will be fit then?
He's fit now. Yeah, he got a knock in the knee, and that's why George has come in on the bench to cover that back three position and the midfield as well.
What about Liam Williams? Was there a discussion about whether you could fit him in somewhere, or was it the same again, you wanted to keep that?
No, we spoke to Liam, and he said he's had one game in 12 weeks and felt that it was important, given that his hair has recovered a reasonable amount, just whether he could get through the game time, and he just said he needs to play, and so he'll go back and play for Saracens this weekend and probably get some game time next weekend as well.
And Corey Hill, no problem with him after the head injury?
He's still going through the protocols at the moment, and back doing some bike and swimming today, and should be fully training hopefully on Thursday.
What are your thoughts on the opening England performance?
Yeah, it was good. They're incredibly good side. So back-to-back Six Nations champions. It's a massive challenge for us going up to Twickenham, taking on that huge English forward pack. They're absolutely massive. They are. So it's good. We're going to be, incredibly tested up there and doing our best to stop them.
What are you expecting from their selection? Obviously, Young's missing, but are you expecting anything else in the way of changes?
I think it was an opportunity for last week for a few players to get a chance. So, we've prepared. We expect probably Joseph to come back into that 13 position. That's possibly the one big change that we potentially see.
Warren, Eddie Jones has talked about England becoming more inventive. Have you seen much evidence of that, or do you expect it to be something a bit more familiar?
I think they're definitely trying to play rugby. They're very positive in the way that they play, and the points that they've scored last week, they've obviously got some serious speed and attacking threats out wide, and they're looking to use that, and then with the creativeness at 10 and 12 with Ford and Farrell as well. So a lot of threats from an attacking point of view, and then a very strong set piece, good scrum, good line out. We have to be at our best to be able to cope with that.
How much information do you retain from the Lions? Is it any benefit and use to you this weekend?
I was asked the same question last week, a couple of weeks ago about the experience, and I think all of us will have a little bit of a deeper understanding about each other, not just from the players but also from the coaches that were involved as well. So, and it's interesting to see that the coaches have been using some of the things that we learnt off each other, and I've already seen that in the first round of games. So. And I think that's good for the game. I think it's good because everyone is, learning from each other and developing as well. So.
Has Eddie Jones nicked a bit from you?
Eddie doesn't need to nick anything from me. I'm the one learning from him. So, he's obviously done a great job, and I'm watching him pretty closely and learning as much as I can.
You told us that last week. You told the chief executive that Wales were going to win by 20 points the day before the game. Are you feeling reasonably optimistic to be able to make that sort of prediction again this week?
I'll have to wait until Friday. So, look, I made that comment last week because I knew how well we had trained, and having a look at the autumn and the conversations that I'd had with people back in New Zealand. I said that I had that conversation with Grant Fox, and he'd said to me, how tough they'd found that week preparing for the Scottish game, having played France in a France 15, and the players were tired, the coaches were pretty tired as well, and the fact that he said, the hardest game that they had on tour was the game against Wales, was the best that they'd played. And so you put that information together in a way that you prepared and trained. You think you go in there with some self-belief and confidence. I looked at the game. Yes, Scotland were outstanding, but at 15-3, if Finn Russell doesn't get that intercept, the All Blacks go and score under the post. It's 22-3, and it potentially changes the whole game. So, I was only putting a little bit of experience of watching games and the conversations that I'd had with people to put that prediction together.
How much more accurate do you think you might need to be, though, in terms of taking chances? Something mentioned by a couple of players after the Scotland game. There you had, 6 or 7 chances, scored 4 tries. You may not get that number of chances again. No,
and I think that's the thing is, at the top level you've got to be accurate. We've had 2 passes go astray and a couple of other opportunities where players have gone on their own, or we've gone the wrong way. So, we've spoken about that this week, about being clinical and taking our chances, and having to step up from last week to improve again this week.
What's the key thing, Warren, to win at Twickenham in the last round, to do it in a Six Nations?
Just go there. Just go to the confidence and self-belief, and I think the big thing we got, we've trained against that England 4-pack already in that autumn period with in Bristol, and that was good. And going with being prepared to play at a high intensity, which we was definitely there last week for long periods of the game, and play with composure and patience, and that's the key. Not being intimidated by the Twickenham factor at all. And I don't think there's a lot of guys in the squad that are hopefully we'll go there with a lot of confidence this week.
Warren, with your experience in this particular fixture, how are the characteristics of England different under Eddie Jones to how you found them in the past? Are there specific things you've noticed how they do things?
No.
So they're the same sort of side they were?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are very similar. I mean, the way they defend is quite similar to what Farrell and obviously Gustard as well. So players are experienced, a bit more experience in certain positions. They've got a bit, some, as we all try to do, develop some depth, but and they're a good rounded side. Strong at set piece, scrum and line out, and some attacking threats as well. So I don't see a massive amount of change in what I've experienced in the past, and we're not talking about too much about England. There's a few threats we've got to be looking at handling, but it's still about ourselves as well.
I just wondered whether on that Lions tour you noticed the difference in their players to the previous, the sort of manner of them, or the confidence of them, or the aggression they showed, or whatever it is.
No, I didn't notice, because it was the first time we'd had a few English players.
Well, you close quite quickly to Grand Slam after Saturday. You mentioned that it was a sequence of fixtures on the 2 previous occasions. Is this going to be the toughest test towards his ambitions this time?
Oh, absolutely. In the next 2 games, and we've said about how important it was to start, and it was a great fixture to get at home. I was asked the question, was 15 or 16 to 1 a good bet for the championship? I thought it was fantastic. And we've looked at it and said, start well against Scotland, you go to Twickenham and you can get a result there, you're going to Dublin for a Triple Crown and potentially playing for the championship. That's kind of the way that I've expressed it to our players and said it to the players right from the start. So we know how important this weekend is to play well up in London.
Did that past record play at all in any talk you give out? 2012, that was the last time we lost at Twickenham Six Nations to Wales. Does the fact that you've done it before come into it by it can be done?
Yeah, I don't think we don't look that far back. We look back at the World Cup, and then I think 2 years ago, for us, towards the end of the game, where George North has gone down the sideline, has flicked the ball in, and it's landed in Reece Webb's hands, and the touch judge has put his flag up. It's clearly not out, and I look at that. So that would have been interesting. Reece Webb 1-on-1, 5 yards from the line, and if he scores here, we win the game. So, that's a pretty critical moment and a decision that's gone against you. So, like I said, we don't have any fear about going up there and playing, and we're excited about it and looking to build on last week.
You suggested that Bristol session last autumn was good for your players in terms of knowing the opposition and feeling confident for this game.
Yeah, so, we came away from there feeling very, very happy with it.
And has it been discussed much this week?
No.
Are there any plans for any further sessions?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but I think it's definitely something we should take advantage of over the next 18 months. The World Cup, and we've got a couple of warm-up games against England, but I think it'd be nice to take advantage of the proximity that we have and being able to get together and do a few more of those sessions.
That being the case, how do you characterise the relationship between the two sides? I mean, you're supposed to have fiercest enemies, and I suppose you are the weekend, but yet you have this training link.
Look, I don't know. I mean, I think there's everyone talks about how much they dislike the English, but I think the relationship between Wales and England's always been close, and it's a big brother little brother thing, but that it's the rugby that brings the two nations together, and the history of the rugby and the border games in the past, and so and I think that's kind of what makes that relationship special. And even though I'd like to think over the years there's been a lot of respect between the two nations.
Do you take pride in how maybe attitudes have changed, where back in the day people said, some Welsh fans would think, well, if we beat England that'll do, that's a good season, but you sort of aim for more now, you've got higher ambitions than just taking that scalp?
Saturday will do nicely. I'll be happy enough with that, for a start.
You mentioned the World Cup. What are your thoughts on how the group has panned out with 4 out of the same 5 sides as last time?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, just obviously England being the different side. So and we had a little bit of a conversation about that, and but still in the back of our mind, we're doing planning for the World Cup and preparing for that, and we've had one of the Japanese representatives over this week doing some stuff with us as well. So, we're trying to make sure we're in the background doing as much as we can to be as prepared as we possibly can be.
Game one in 2016 you alluded to with George not going into touch.
George didn't go into touch. It was the wrong.
How important is then coming out of the traps fast? Because in that game, obviously, you had to chase the game after the English start.
Yeah, and I think that's what's been the hardest thing for us against England. We've probably in the past we've backed their ability to play for 80 minutes, and we've felt that we've been fitter than the English sides and finished stronger than they have, and a lot of a number of occasions that I've been involved, and so we've got to start well, and it's important that we start well and try and contain the English team as much as we can. And if it's a close game, then hopefully that confidence continues to lift for us to hopefully get a result.
Do you think they're under a certain amount of pressure themselves? They've set themselves a target of being number 1 in the world by the World Cup. Is there a danger they're not looking over the shoulder to see what's coming behind them?
I don't know. I mean, I think you can't argue with the ambition that Eddie's got, and you can't argue with the record of the last couple of seasons. So they're definitely, obviously that's been the target, and we'll probably know by the autumn, won't we? That's going to be interesting. You set yourself up for a big game, and it's you either take that game in the autumn and you become number one team in the world, or someone pulls your pants down.
Warren, you said that you could learn from Eddie. Can you be specific as what you'd like to learn from him?
I'm just intrigued by watching him and the way he's doing things and the way he prepares and the way he coaches his team, and that. I think it's and you learn as much as you possibly can from everyone. That's part of the game. The game changes, and you try and take out as much as you can and learn from watching other people.
Warren, you pretty clear he wants to be the next Lions coach. Would you
Yeah.
be careful what he wishes for?
He'd do a great job if he was Lions coach, So, 3-0 be expected. It's probably the easiest of the 3 tours, isn't it? So.
What, in terms of what you know about, a lot about that Owen Farrell, how have you seen his influence on England? Has he just grown and grown and grown?
I think he's world class as a player, and the reason I say that he's world class is that, and I saw a bit of that in the Lions, in a period of game where things might not go brilliantly for him. He'll go through a bit of a bad patch or make a couple of mistakes, and then he turns up and does something that's that he can put those disappointments behind him and nail a big moment, and that's what world class players are capable of doing. So there's no doubt that he has a huge amount of influence, both on and off the field, and from a leadership point of view, and directing that team around the pitch.
Obviously, you didn't get the chance to have Billy Vunipola involved in the Lions tour, and they're without him again. Do you think that makes a big difference to everything in terms of how you prepare, in terms of them having someone like Simmons at 8 rather than a big player?
I don't know. I think they've got a huge amount of depth in that side. Obviously, Billy's been very strong for England as a ball carrier, but I don't, having not had him in the Lions or been involved with him or not seen him really play much in the last couple of years. It's kind of something that he's not really in our thought process at all. So Simmons looked pretty useful in the weekend, and just shows what sort of strength and depth England have, given the injury crisis that Eddie's been talking about.
Final one, please, Paul.
Warren, you disrupted Scotland's lineup on Saturday very effectively, stopped the opponent's source of tackle ball. Given the number of tries England scored from lineups against Italy, how important is that again? The final last 2 in 1. And the BG strength over the ball, how sort of crucial is that for you?
Yeah, definitely a line out time we've spoken about England's strength and their variations, and some of the variations that they used in some of their breakout plays, and using Vunipola was passing as well. So there's some variations to the game. There's a strong driving threat, and we've got to negate that, and we've got to get up there and compete as well. So that's one aspect. Navidi being strong, or loose forwards being strong over the ball, is going to be important for us. So, and ironically, probably the England threat isn't their loose forwards over the ball, it's probably their front rowers, but more over the ball, particularly Vunipola, and Dan Cole's pretty good at that. So they're quite happy to tackle and fan and wait for their opportunity. So from saying that, we just got to be patient and being prepared to play through long phases and keep the ball and wait for opportunities, not to force things, because they'll be quite comfortable giving us the ball for long periods, because they don't have a lot of what you consider real jacklers or threats on the ball. Yeah, but apart from, I said, Marco's probably one of the best around, and Dan Cole's not too bad either.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you.